I'm talking to Muad'Dib about the Stone of Destiny, and you were just saying that it was on the Isle of Iona, which is
correct.
between Scotland and Ireland.
Correct.
Now, at some point, it then gets to the mainland of Scotland.
Yeah.
So where did it go from Iona?
After Columba had died, and he crowned Aidan as one of the kings of Scotland on the island of Iona, on the Stone of Destiny. The stone was moved from Iona onto the mainland to Dunstafnage, which is just by Oban, and it stayed there at Dunstafnage, and the descendants of Fergus, who was also from the Tiatafi, from the line of David, King David in Israel. His descendants were crowned on the stone at Dunstafnage. And then later on, I think round about 800 AD, there was Kenneth MacAlpine. And Kenneth MacAlpine, his mum was a Pictish princess, and his dad was from the line of Fergus, from the Irish Scots. So under Kenneth MacAlpine, the Picts and the Irish Scots united as what we know today as the Scottish nation. And at that point, he moved the stone from Dunstafnage and moved it to Scone, or Scone, as I must apologise to the Scottish people. It's written Scone, but they pronounce it Scone.
Stone of Scone.
Yeah, so it was moved to Scone, and there's a palace of Scone there now in Perthshire. And then all of the descendants were crowned on the stone at Scone, until 1296 AD, when Edward I, King of England, Longshanks, if your viewers have seen the film Braveheart, that's who we're talking about, the King of England, defeated the Scots at Bannockburn, and he took the stone from Scone and took it to Westminster. He had a wooden chair built to house the stone.
Right.
Okay.
1296.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting a little bit closer to the modern day.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
that chair became the coronation stone, with a coronation chair with the stone in it, and has been used since 1306 to crown all the English monarchs.
Okay, kings and queens, right up to
King George the Sixth.
King George the Sixth.
Yes.
Right, now we get to the fascinating, well, it's all fascinating, but the incredible part. Okay, in 1950, can we jump to 1950, Muad'Dib? Are you happy to do that?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Some Scottish students decided that they wanted to steal this stone.
Yeah,
I guess it was a nationalistic thing, was it?
they wouldn't call it stealing.
Right, they would just say
They were taking. They were putting. As far as they were concerned, they were taking back their property for Scotland, taking it back because Edward I, in their opinion, had stolen it from the Scots, and they were taking it back. The ringleader of the plot was actually a law student at Glasgow University, and his name is Ian Robertson Hamilton. He's now in his 80s.
Still alive?
He's in his 80s. He's a retired QC, so he actually became a QC.
Just sit up there. I mean, these guys are students. Do you think someone put them up to do this? Or
It was, according to his books, it was his idea.
Right.
But he got financing from the Scottish Covenant Party,
Right.
which was the forebearer of the Scottish Nationalist Party. They were all Scottish nationalists, basically.
This stone's about £400 plus.
It's the exact weight of the genuine stone is 458 pounds.
Okay.
More than 400 weight.
So pretty heavy.
Yeah, but that was what threw them, because there had been a plot by the Scottish Covenant Party in the 1920s to repatriate the stone, as they would call it, from Westminster Abbey back to Scotland. And a stonemason who was also a local councillor in Glasgow and a magistrate called Bertie Gray had made, because he was a stonemason, he'd made a stone copy. They got the dimensions of the stone from books, and they got some stone from Perthshire, from near, there's a quarry near Scone in Perthshire, And so they went there thinking that the original stone was the Stone of Scone and that it came from Scone. They didn't know that it had come from Bethel in Israel. And so they got some stone from Scone, from the quarry, and Bertie Gray made a copy, a replica to this same dimensions as they'd read in a book. And they used that. There were 4 of them that went to London to do it. There was Ian Robertson Hamilton, Alan Stewart, Gavin Vernon, and Kay Matheson.
This is in 1950.
In 1950. And what they did was they practiced with this copy, this replica that Bertie Gray had made. Obviously, you wouldn't go all the way to Westminster Abbey without, doing some kind of practice. Yeah. So they practiced on this stone, and this stone, because it's made of Scottish sandstone, it's not made of the same material as the original stone that came from Bethel. It weighed 336 pounds, exactly 336 pounds, which is 300 weight, because 100 weight is 112 pounds. So it weighed 300 weight. They tried to remove the stone on the 23rd of December and were foiled. They tried again on the 24th and were foiled because the stone had to be removed on the 25th.
You think that's a prophecy?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, but they didn't know that.
They didn't know.
Right, so
no, they just thought, we weren't able to do it. Somebody stopped us, and all the rest of it.
Right.
But in Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 27, God prophesied that He would overturn the throne and the sovereignty 3 times, and then a 4th. Okay, and the prophecy states that He will overturn the throne, okay, and then it will be no more overturned until He comes whose right it is, and then I, the ruler of the universe, says I will give it to Him,
okay,
the person whose right it is. So the first overturn was from Jerusalem to Tara in Ireland. The second overturn was from Tara in Ireland to Scotland, and the third overturn was from Scotland in 1296 with Edward I Longshanks, who took it to Westminster. That's the 3 overturns. Okay, and then the prophecy says it will be no more overturned until He comes whose right it is, and I will give it to Him.
We can perhaps come back to that, but sticking on the actual theft of this stone.
So
the 4 students come down the break.
But the 4th overturn, this is important because it's about why it had to be done, and it was done at 4 o'clock in the morning on the 25th Christ Mass Day in 1950, and it had to be removed that day as a sign that the 4th and final overturn was beginning, as a sign to the British so-called royal family, because they knew the prophecies. They knew it was Jacob's pillar. They knew they were descended from David. Queen Victoria had a genealogical chart made showing her lineage all the way from David through Teotefi in Ireland, okay, all the way down to Queen Victoria, and that was placed on the wall in Windsor Castle. Right, so they absolutely know that they're descended from David, and they know that the British people are the real Israel. The word British is Hebrew, and it means the people of the covenant. Berit in Hebrew and in Welsh means covenant, and Ish means man or the people
but
of.
We've been invaded countless times.
They were all parts of the 10 lost tribes of Israel.
Okay.
Right,
so these 4 students get this massive stone, and
these 4 students went to Westminster Abbey, and King George VI was distraught when the stone was removed because he knew the prophecies, and he actually said that he saw it as portending the end of his dynasty.
Right. And so when they got the stone away from Westminster, was that it reported in any newspapers, or was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so that's common. That's
really absolutely. It was in all the national papers.
Right.
This was a scandal that that people had stolen the coronation stone and all of that.
And it broke.
Yeah, because what happened was that whilst they were trying to push the stone out of the chair, the coronation chair, when it came free of the chair, they found to their horror that it weighed a lot more than the practice stone they'd been using, the 336 pound stone. it weighed a lot more because the real stone is not from Scottish sandstone. It came from Bethel. It's a different material,
Right.
different weight, different density, different texture, different colour, okay? And it weighed 122 pounds more than their practice stone, and they found when it came out that they couldn't support the weight of it,
Right.
and they dropped it and it broke,
Right.
okay? And it broke into a smaller section and a larger section,
Right.
which enabled them then to
Right.
actually remove it in the two cars.
I would like to have been a fly on the wall there.
Yeah.
I mean, so they put it in two different cars, and was that
Yeah.
reported as well in the media that it was actually broken?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And it was seen, of course, as sacrilege,
Right.
and it upset them because
yeah, they
they
didn't want to
venerate the
break
stone.
it, yeah.
Yeah, that's it was their national treasure,
Right.
so they
So-
were upset that they'd broken it.
And just to touch on there's key differences between this fake stone that was made and the other stone, because there's wear marks in it from where it was carried, where the pole rubbed against it,
Yeah,
and all of this,
yeah.
and there's a different colour, as you say, a different
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah.
So they took it back. They took it to Scotland, and then at some point, well, tell us what happened then.
Well, it was repaired by Bertie Gray, the stonemason who had made the replica. He repaired the stone, and what he did was he drilled into the stone, the two pieces of the stone. He drilled in, and he put 4 bronze tubes in, 1 tube per hundredweight,
Right.
because the real stone weighed more than 400 weight. So he
Right.
put 4 tubes in it,
Right.
bronze tubes. And I understand that inside one of the tubes, rolled up, is a copy of the Scottish Declaration of Independence.
Right.
Okay? And then what he had to do then was he had to break the replica that he'd made in a similar place to where the real stone had broken.
Right.
And because it only weighed 300 weights, he used 3 bronze tubes
Right.
to put it back together. They took the stone at 4 a.m. on the 25th of December 1950, and then there was a hue and cry all over the country. The police were going crazy everywhere looking for it. What they did was they placed the replica wrapped in a saltire, which is the St Andrews, the blue flag with the white
cross,
diagonal
yeah.
cross. They wrapped the stone, the fake stone, in that, and they left it on the high altar stone of Arbroath Abbey in Scotland.
Right.
And they did that for a particular reason.
So how long was it from the stone going missing to them finding the fake stone?
They placed the stone on the high altar stone of Arbroath Abbey at midday on the 11th of April of 1951. So it was a number of months.
All right. So it was so it was
A few months.
months.
Yeah.
So it was completely gone for that period. Then,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
They left it in that particular location because that's where Robert the Bruce and the Scottish nobles had declared the Scottish Declaration of Independence in 1320. Okay, so that was a message to the English authorities. This is our stone. This is about Scottish independence, because they were the Scottish Covenant Party. They wanted independence for Scotland, just as the Scottish Nationalist Party today claim that they want independence from England. And so that was a message to the authorities. And so they then notified the authorities of where they could find the stone. And that stone was then taken from Arbroath Abbey, and it was taken to London. And there are some stories that it wouldn't fit in the chair. And so they got a stonemason to dress the stone to make it fit in the chair. And that's the stone that Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Battenberg, who calls herself Windsor, and was crowned on, knowingly, willingly, with malice aforethought, was crowned on that fake stone in Westminster Abbey in June of 1953.
Now, in the newspapers, was it reported that they'd found the stone?
Yes.
And presumably it was reported that they'd found the original stone.
Well, they had to.
So they just put that story out. But they must have known when they'd seen it's made of a different type of
Absolutely,
stone.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's just. What other evidence is there that it definitely is the fake stone? For example, you've got a photograph of the original one, which you
supplied by Westminster Abbey,
right,
by the keeper of the muniments.
So just tell us about that photograph, Mardib. you asked them for a copy of that photograph without telling them why you wanted it, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point.
I've
some
got the
years ago.
paperwork. Yeah, well, I've got the letter
Mm-hmm.
that came with it and how much it cost and all of that, so I can actually give you the date.
Right.
I'll let you photograph it.
Right. So are there any photographs of the stone that's actually there then to identify that it's different? Or?
Yes, the fake stone that Elizabeth was crowned upon was sent back to Scotland in 1996, exactly 700 years after Edward I had taken it in 1296 from Scone, taken it to Westminster. It went back to Scotland exactly 700 years later in 1996 under the John Major Conservative government.
He's trying to be kind to the Scots, was he, like John Major? Or he's trying to...
No, I think it had more to do with politics. The fact that the Conservative Party had very little support.
That's what I meant. He was trying to win over the Scots, I should say.
That's right, yeah. So as a gesture to the Scots, hoping they'd vote Conservative, he sent the stone back to Scotland. And it is on display in a bulletproof, transparent case, floodlit, in Edinburgh Castle, with other regalia, Scottish regalia.
And what does it say on the thing? Does it just say the Stone of Scone, or does it say the Stone of David, or what?
Actually,
what does it actually say?
Actually, on it doesn't, or it didn't at the time I saw it. I don't think it said anything. But they have a book, a booklet, explaining about the stone.
And it's this fake stone that was made in 1950.
Yeah, and there's photographs in it, and it tells you the weight of it. It tells you where it. I even have.
So what does it state the weight is in the book? Does it give you
330?
Oh, the weight of the fake stone, not the actual stone.
Yeah, okay. 336 pounds, which is absolute proof that it's not the real stone, because the real stone weighs 458.
All right. So the next question: where's the real stone?
It's still in Scotland, and it was still being hidden by people who are Scottish nationalists. I won't say from the Scottish Nationalist Party, but people who are Scottish
nationalists have it.
Yeah, they've been holding on to it all this time in order to bring it out when they get independence.
Right.
And of course now they've got the fake one back since 1996. This kind of, well, what do we do now?
Right. Okay. Now, in your trial, you argued that the Queen had no jurisdiction over you because she is a fake Queen, i.e. she wasn't coronated on the right stone, and she's broken her oath.
Yeah.
Now, if we just go over what the judge said, because he considered those claims overnight, and he came back the following day, presumably having taken advice from somewhere else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure he was handpicked for the job as well.
And he then just said, he didn't bother about the Queen breaking any oath. That was not mentioned. He just said that no, your case is, we're going to reject it because the stone is just a ceremonial thing. It's just basically an ornament. It's not really relevant. So by saying that, he was implying, he didn't say that it was the real stone.
No,
so
he couldn't, because I have absolute proof.
Right.
That can prove it to anybody beyond any shadow of a doubt.
So they're now saying that, look, this stone's not really that important. It's just kind of a, like a candle or something like that. It's just part of the ceremony.
Yeah.
So
which isn't true.
Right.
Because the British are Israel, the real Israel. Okay, and I've proved that on my website with the coat of arms. The British coat of arms is the coat of arms of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is explained on the website. And Elizabeth is descended from the line of David, okay? But it says, as I've quoted in Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 27, it states that the throne will be overturned 3 times and then no more overturned until he comes whose right it is. And then the ruler of the universe will give it to him, which is Christ. And so she knew, and George VI knew these prophecies, and knew that was the end of their dynasty, that Christ was coming and was going to sit on that stone, and that God took away the stone to prevent her from being crowned. And she, knowing that, willfully went against God's will.
Right.
and had herself crowned knowingly on a fake stone.
Right.
So what that judge said is absolute nonsense.